I'm here today with Alan O'Neill. Alan, how are you?
Nice to meet you again, Nick.
Lovely to see you again. Yeah, we were just reminiscing about how long you've been.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So listen, I think the thing that interests me is the world is in a different place. And you're very, very famous and amazing what you did with Selfridges, which is a brand which has been around for a very long time. Can companies change? Can they update themselves, especially in the retail space? How much are they relying on their heritage, and does that still stack up?
Sure. I mean, heritage is the foundation, really, isn't it? The history that any company has. But let's not forget, there's lots of new companies out there that don't have that heritage to pull from. So they're pulling from their own leadership and their own aspirations and so on. But yes, they can change for sure. I mean, the retail is probably that industry that has changed more than any other industry in recent times, because it's at the coalface, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's, the digital stuff and the online stuff has really transformed retail. But I say to people all of the time that despite the fact that so much of retail has gone online, it's anticipated that it's unlikely to be ever more than 25%, Nick, which means that there is still 75% of stuff to be done in bricks and mortar. And I think sometimes retailers forget that. They get so consumed by all the digital and the need to invest in that, and they forget that the physical stores still have a huge, bigger role to play.
So let me ask, kind of that 25% stat. Yeah, I double check myself on that whole thing, because my perception is everything's going online.
Yes.
Why have I got that perception? And is it something that I suppose the offline, the bricks and mortar retail need to combat, and how can they?
Well, you see, there's a lot of clickbait going on, and lazy journalists, I'm afraid, write stuff that is not correct. And obviously, during COVID, online sales went up to 30-odd%, but they did come back down again. But what you have, though, is a mixture of all sorts of retail online. For example, I booked my flight to be here with you today. I did that online. But that's not considered in the same basket of retail spend as buying a shirt.
Right.
So if you look at the actual product purchases, retail product purchases online, and strip out all the airlines, concert tickets, insurance and phones and so on, that element of retail is unlikely to grow much more than 25%. It's what the experts are predicting. But Nick, even if it goes to 28%, it's not going to replace bricks and mortar retail.
Yeah.
And this is the point that we shouldn't forget, that it's still bricks and mortar is a huge part of the retail spend. And with that then, let's refocus on that and get back to the basics of what makes great retailing. Yes, there are things changing in store. There's a lot of talking about experiential
Yes, I was going to
retail.
ask you about that.
Yeah, the customer experience has changed. But the fundamentals that drive customer experience, I often talk about the three-legged stool, which is made up of product, people and place.
Yes.
But the examples given under product, people and place may have changed. But still, the three-legged stool is the framework. So retailers now just need to think within the framework, for example, under people, the need for being really friendly. I visited a store this morning. I'm going to be speaking at the conference in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
I mystery shopped their store.
Beautiful.
Just to get a sense of it from my own experience. And they were very, very good, but they missed a few tricks on the basics. This presentation of the store was fine, but there was no animation, there was no excitement, there was no inspiration. I wasn't being romanced to buy anything.
Yeah.
The salespeople transactionally did exactly what they should do, but were they warm and friendly and welcoming? Not really. So it is about the basics, Nick, honestly, that they haven't gone away despite the massive changes.
And so for someone who and you now worked across many different industries, and
not just retail.
Not just retail.
B2B and B2C.
But from my perspective, for you, it's like, these traits which you talk about, which I absolutely see in kind of various shops now, does it frustrate you? And is it consistent across these different industries? And I suppose, that level of care isn't there.
It does frustrate me because, honestly, I'm a very, very strong believer in the basics. You'll often hear about companies trying to go the extra mile.
Yeah.
But going the extra mile is things like giving somebody a glass of champagne or sending flowers to their home. That's all absolute BS if the fundamentals are not right in the first place. I often tell the story of, if I went into a store and they didn't have my Yop yogurt for my grandson, that's what matters to me more than all of the sexy stuff that goes on around that. The fundamentals of out of stocks will just drive me mad and push me away as a customer.
And is that kind of, return to my original question, I suppose, is that because companies feel they need to change, so they're trying stuff rather than turning around and saying, let's get it right and actually go like the heritage and what we've got and how we know we should be operating. Let's focus on that.
Completely. Because the digital has taken over the capex spend to a great extent.
Yeah.
That not just retail, by the way. I'm working with an insurance company in the UAE at the moment. I'm doing some consulting work with them, and even in the oil and gas industry, speaking at their events. I'm challenging them in the B2B world to even think about customer experience. The three legs of the stool still apply, Nick, but it's them looking at what does good look like, and not just getting caught up on this whole consumed by digital as if it was the be all and end all. Now, just because I've got grey hair doesn't mean I'm an old fogey and don't care about digital.
Yes,
of course I do.
Yeah.
I completely embrace it. But if you're trying to compete with the Airbnbs and the Ubers and the Netflixes who have very deep pockets, the Amazons, and who have spent gazillions on technology, you just can't compete with them. So it doesn't mean you ignore it, you do what you can, but behind all that though, Nick, you've got the fundamentals that they haven't gone away. People buy from people.
But let me ask let me explore more a bit with you the digital. Can that experience, can you get the experience and the service from a digital, or is that the differentiation for offline stores?
You can get that experience. So I mean, even for retailers who are going online, they're trying to bring their great reputation of great experience onto the online.
Yeah.
And that can be around, I mean, if you look at it, Nick, fundamentally, the drivers of sales for any industry are footfall, conversion, and average spend.
Right.
Those three multiplied together give you your sales.
Okay.
Whether you're an oil company, an insurance company, a hotel, a retailer, they're the three drivers for anybody. Now, if you look at a retail bricks and mortar store, they care about footfall, getting people in the door. They care about converting those browsers into shoppers, and there's skill and tools and tricks to improve that. And they care about average spend. The same thing applies online. Like, what do you need to do to get customers to visit you online? There's all sorts of activity you can do, not just relying on online to do that, by the way. I mean, why do Amazon advertise on TV? Why do Amazon have bricks and mortar stores, by the way?
Yeah.
So it's not just about online. And even then, when you do go to visit a brand or a retailer's online store, converting them, I mean, the conversion rate is extremely low.
Yes.
Online is not a very profitable business for many.
Yeah.
It's an expensive business. And this is where, I mean, even Amazon don't make money in retail in Europe.
Yeah.
They make much more money on their cloud services for B2B companies.
Yeah.
So we just need to strip out the fat here and go deep here and look at what are the fundamentals for your business, whatever your business might be, whether it be B2B or B2C. And I will finish on that point by saying I'm not ignoring digital. I'm embracing it.
Let me ask one final question to you, which is the high street as a whole.
Yes.
Are you positive about it? I'm in London, and obviously Oxford Street is going through its challenges, and that's been replicated across the country.
Yes.
Is it just a cycle we're going through at the moment, or are the big areas of shopping is it being dispersed out to maybe?
I believe it's retail Darwinism.
Okay.
Right, so we've had shifts all through 50, 70 years in retail, significant shifts. This is a shift. It's a big shift, no doubt about it. But honestly, like, there's a lot of talk about the demise of the department store.
Yes.
And in the US, you do see that. Empty malls with plants growing inside them that just have been forgotten about.
Yeah.
But the model in the US is very different to the model here. You've got a lot of cookie cutter style of retailing going on in the US, where, let's say, a venture capital company buys into a major retailer, I won't mention names, and they then just have a cookie cutter approach to, they put the same merchandise mix into the store in Seattle as in Florida. Right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And they underinvest from a capex point of view because they're venture capitalists. They have a short-term focus. They want return. They want to hit their hurdle rate inside 5 years. But when you go to, for example, a department store that is owned by the shareholders and being run by the shareholders, where there isn't that short-term expectation of making bundles of return, you'll see those doing much better. I'm working with Fenwick, the department store chain here at the moment in the UK. Now, they've had their tough times, but you can see it's a family-owned business and they're still involved, and you can see the growth coming back into it. It's not easy, but you can see the growth coming back in. They're even considering opening a new store despite the fact that they sold their Bond Street store.
Yeah.
They sold their Bond Street store because it was a great real estate opportunity. But opening another store, that to me says something about their confidence. So to me, the future of the high street is promising, but in a selective way, for sure.
On that thought-provoking note.
Okay.
Alan, thanks so much. It's lovely to see you.
And you too, and thanks for your
Cheers.
time, Nick.
No worries.
Great.
Take care.